Cade Cunningham. This is going to be an interesting one. So Cade Cunningham in his rookie season averaged 17.4 points per game, averaged 19.9 points per game in his sophomore season, only played 12 games. First thing I want to say with Cade Cunningham, field goal and 3-point percentage. Definitely going to need to see an increase there. 41.6 his rookie year from the field, 41.5 in his second year. Now, his second year, you can't really look too much into it. He had a very, very good start to the season and then had a really rough game against Boston. I believe that game against Boston was his last game of his sophomore season, and you could tell the injuries were starting to catch up to him. Obviously, the shin injury. So I'm not looking too much into a sophomore season. If I would look into a sophomore season, I would look at that stretch of games he had where he was absolutely just balling out and looked like an absolute superstar. He looked like he was on a trajectory to be an all-star in his second season. But for Cade Cunningham, I mean, his rookie year, he got off to a dreadful start, really struggled to shoot. But as the season went along, I don't think you can look at Cade Cunningham and be analytical. I don't think you can look at Cade Cunningham and dive into the numbers. You either believe in him as a superstar player or you don't. You believe in the intangibles. You believe in the talent. The numbers, I don't really think accurately depict what he's been at the NBA. He's only played 76 games. The field goal percentage isn't where you want it to be. The 3-point percentage isn't where you want it to be. But again, I think you need to look at those numbers with an asterisk because he was injured heading into his rookie season as well, and obviously his sophomore season pretty much a wash. I mean, you can have the conversation of if he's injury prone and if you want to worry about that moving forward. You hope the injuries are behind him. You hope the surgery that he got, he's ready to go now and he's fully healthy, and we can finally see what he's able to do at full strength. For me, Cade Cunningham, in terms of statistical expectations, predictions, I'll just leave it at this. Cade Cunningham needs to be an all-star level player. That doesn't mean he's going to make the all-star team. We know how competitive that is. We know teams that are usually at the top of the Eastern or Western Conference are going to get an all-star. He needs to put up all-star numbers. You need to look at his numbers when the season is over and say that is an all-star level player for Cade Cunningham. What does that look like? I'd say it's at least 20 points per game. I'd say it's at least 6 to 8 assists per game, 5 to 6 rebounds a game. And you definitely hope those turnovers lower a little bit and the field goal and 3-point percentage increase. If you're asking me for a number, I think he needs to shoot at least 35% from three. I don't think that's too much to ask for. And I think from the field, you're asking him to shoot close to 45%. He was 41% his rookie and sophomore year. If he's at 43, 44%, I think that's pretty respectable. But like I said, Cade Cunningham, he's the guy. He needs to be the star. And that's really the storyline of this Detroit Pistons season. We can go in depth with all these veterans and even the players around Cade Cunningham. If we're being honest, if Cade Cunningham is not an all NBA player, if he is not a potential top 10 or top 15 player in the NBA one day, if he's not a guy that's going to be getting MVP votes one day, this Detroit Pistons team isn't going to be going much of anywhere. This is a star driven league. This is the guy that's going to take the Pistons to where they need to go. This is the guy that Troy Weaver's job is dependent on. If Troy Weaver is not the player the Detroit Pistons need him to be, Troy Weaver's job is going to be on the line. That's what happens when you draft this player number 1 overall. When the Detroit Pistons got lucky enough to get the number 1 overall pick and you draft this guy and Cade Cunningham with the number 1 overall pick, he's a guy you build your franchise around. He needs to be that for the Detroit Pistons. This season, again, you could call it the Cade Cunningham season because that is what we're all going to be watching. That's what we need. We need this kid. I say this kid, he's literally like the same age as me. We need Cade Cunningham to be that star for the Detroit Pistons. You know, those comparisons to Luka Doncic. That's a little much. I don't think he needs to be Luka Doncic. Luka Doncic looks like he's going to be one of the greatest players of all time when it's all said and done. Cade Cunningham, to me, multiple time All Star, multiple time All NBA, a guy that should finish top 10 in the MVP voting in multiple seasons, maybe even top 5, maybe even top 3 one day. But that's my spiel on Cade Cunningham. All-star level season, whatever that looks like for you. Like I said, 45% from the field, 35% for three, 20-plus points a game, 6 to 8 assists per game, 5 to 6 rebounds a game, lowering those turnovers. Cade Cunningham is going to have a lot of pressure on him, and it's going to be a big year for Cade Cunningham and the Detroit Pistons. I think in terms of the highlight that's going to be on him, the pressure that's going to be on him. We haven't seen a Detroit Pistons player have this much pressure on him, and I couldn't even tell you how long. Like even Blake Griffin really didn't have that much pressure on him because he was already established. He was already an All NBA player. I mean, I'm not gonna say Blake Griffin's an NBA legend, but he's definitely gonna go down and be remembered as a great player in the NBA. For Cade Cunningham, this is his season to show that he can be the guy for the Detroit Pistons. And it's going to be very, very exciting to see what he can do. And essentially his sophomore season. I mean, he only has 76 career games played. He has 2 more games played in the NBA than Jaden Ivey. So this is really him and Jaden Ivey's sophomore season. So it's going to be really, really fun to see what those two can do together and hopefully grow and gel together as the season goes along.